It's Friday, September 28th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we round up the weekly updates from Barnstable Recreation and Natural Resources, and we're riding in style at the Senior Center. Here's some news you can use. Starting this Monday, October 1st, residents who recycle at the transfer station will now be required to separate into designated containers for corrugated cardboard, mixed paper, think newspaper, junk mail, metal and aluminum, and plastics 1 through 6. 2 single-stream containers will be available for just 60 days to help residents to transition to this new system. Stay tuned to our Barnstable Recreation and the Hyannis Youth and Community Center offer a robust calendar of sports, both traditional and trendy. Program coordinators Tim McGrath and Melanie Mimo stop by to highlight fall and winter programming. It's Friday, and we get an update from Barnstable Recreation every week. This week, we're talking after-school programs with Tim McGrath and Melanie Minow. Wow, they just started. You must have a pack of kids everywhere now.
We do. We're excited. It's fall.
It's fall. So, long summer. We had swim lessons all summer. We had the skate park all summer, but the skate park's still open.
It is. We'll be open until November 18th, so there's still lots of time to ride.
All right, and you had some Sunday things going on?
Yes, we have, it's called the Sunday Showdown, so kids, adults, anybody can come down to the skate park, and it's a best trick competition every Sunday, so they can go home with something free, some free gear, some free swag, so they can, anybody can come down and just show off their stuff.
Excellent.
Every Sunday.
What time Sundays?
During all park hours, so 12 to 8.
12 to 8. Excellent. So after school programs, Tim, they got started last week, basically. Kids excited to be back?
Absolutely. We're into the swing of things now with all of our programs, so it's very exciting.
So what kind of programs are the kids doing this year?
I personally have field hockey, tennis, soccer, and I think, those 3.
So field hockey's still a thing, huh? That was a thing when I was in high school.
It's a big thing.
Is it really?
Love it, yes. Yeah. So between the 2 age groups that went, I have about 40 kids.
Wow.
So between 4th and 5th grade and 6th and 7th. Yeah.
Is it still all girls?
I have a boy.
Do you?
Yeah, at 6'7", who's he's really good.
Right.
Yeah, he loves it. So.
What do kids learn in some of those team sports like field hockey? Because it's a little bit of a complicated game.
Yeah, so with the kids that I have, they're all kind of starting at the same base level skill. So everybody kind of comes in new and fresh, and so nobody's really too nervous that somebody's going to be really better than them. So they really learn teamwork and communication and to have fun when everybody kind of starts at a base level. So.
Right, and keep the stick on the ground.
Yeah, 6 down. 6 down.
Sticks down. And Tim, you've got, you had a bunch of kids that learned how to swim this summer, which was absolutely fabulous. We saw quite a bit of that on Channel 18. What do you got for kids this year?
So in the fall, I have flag football, volleyball, archery, and a running program.
The archery is one of those things that amazes me. I guess it was the Hunger Games or something that this is really something that kids are into again.
It's a lot of fun. This is my first session teaching it, and I can say it's honestly a blast to teach it and just watch the kids get better every time that they shoot, and they have a blast.
Really? So what do kids learn? Archery, it seems like, well, all I do is take aim and I let it go. You're learning something besides that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, our big focus is that they are real bows and real arrows, so we're being safe. That's our number one priority, and it helps teach the kids to be patient. That they can't just get up there and start shooting, because we have explicit directions that they have to follow before they can approach the line, before they can grab their bow, and then before they can start shooting. So it really helps those kids that are going 100 miles an hour, slow down, listen to directions, follow the directions, and then they see their improvement, which is a lot of fun.
That's great. And I think running kind of happens that way as well, is that there's a process to running, yes?
Certainly. I mean, I run along with the kids, and I can tell you that the first week is a little tough, and then every week we add a couple minutes onto our run. So we're building endurance and learning how to pace ourselves. And that's the big thing in running, is that we can't just sprint that first lap around the track, because we've got 10 more minutes to go before we're done. So you can't just run and walk, that we're learning how to jog and pace ourselves, and then every day we end with a nice game.
All right. Well, you know, soccer always makes me laugh, especially the little kids, because they all look like a bunch of ants going after a crumb, and then the crumb moves, and
it's controlled chaos.
It's controlled chaos. It's actually cute to watch.
Yeah.
What are you because the little kids, what do they learn at that age in a soccer game?
So they sort of play off of some of the things that they might learn at like preschool or a daycare, where it's we really need to listen to the teacher or instructor, and it's all very small, skill-based to keep their attention, because we know that it's very small.
Right.
So they sort of do really small things, and just to keep the kids moving, and they're really just there to have fun and maybe learn a couple new skills here and there, but it's really focused on listening and just having fun.
So how long do these programs last?
They're 6 weeks long, so we'll be wrapping our programs up around the first week of November.
Okay. Well, first week of November, then what are you going to do with them for the rest of the winter? Oh, my goodness, that's why we're here today. We already have to start thinking about winter programming.
Amazingly enough, yeah. So the brochure of activities will go home in backpacks probably the end of October, beginning of November. And then our winter stuff is right around the corner, end of November after Thanksgiving. We'll start up with basketball and some indoor soccer.
Fencing.
Fencing, yes.
Fencing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that just baffles my mind. Kids take fencing.
Yeah. So we have an instructor come in once a week, and he teaches them the very basics of fencing, and then towards the end they do tournaments in the program and
oh my goodness.
learn how to fence. Yeah.
Now there's got to be some patience there too, right?
Certainly.
So what else do we have for winter programming that parents can kind of start to think about now that they might not have gotten into the fall programs, but you know, now that the brochure is going to be out in another week or so after the printer is done with it, right? Yeah. What are some of those things that they can start to think about?
So we definitely carry along with soccer. So if they missed out on the soccer registration, it's called futsal. It's indoor soccer. They use sort of like a deadened ball, but same concept, but it's inside. So that's one to look forward to, and basketball's huge. Okay. So register early so you can get a spot.
Okay. What about volleyball? Does that go for the winter too?
No, so volleyball we just do as a fall sport.
Okay.
But we have as much fun as we can with it in the fall. Yeah.
All right. And any other things that you want to tell parents to make sure that they are ready for the winter games?
I would say check your household account. Make sure, go in, log in, make sure all the information's correct, the grades are correct. Anything you can't change, just call the office so that when it opens up for registration, you're right in.
Okay. And you can register through your account on the website, but you can also stop into the HYCC?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like fun. Maybe I should take some of those.
Yeah. Come to archery.
Yeah.
Archery. I love
the
archery.
whole
archery.
archery thing is like that. That's kind of cool.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Well, we will probably see you later in October to get an update and make sure that everybody gets signed up for the winter games.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Herring are a vital link in the ecosystem chain, and their safe passage to and from their spawning grounds is critical to their species growth. Amy Croto, Natural Resource Officer, does an educational dive on some herring ladder work this past Wednesday in Marston's Mills and how it will help the small fry headed home to the ocean. Everyone needs a safe passage home. With me today, Amy Croto, Natural Resource Officer, working on the herring runs in the mills.
Yes.
So what happened that they might not have been able to pass through those fish runs?
Right. So over the winter, we had, 5 or so nor'easters, and obviously a lot of trees fell. And while the vast majority of trees that fell in the herring runs were not obstructing any fish passage, and we didn't have any real concerns in the spring when the adults were sort of migrating upstream because they're larger, hardier fish, the fry are emigrating from our ponds, going downstream out into the ocean to spend their first few years of life before they repeat that cycle. And this tree, just upstream of the flume at Middle Pond, had fallen in and left branches sort of in the water column. And part of the tree was dead, part of the tree is still alive, and so we had to work with DPW. Thankfully, they purchased a chainsaw that runs on vegetable oil, so it's more environmentally friendly. And we put a boat in the water, went out yesterday to remove those branches that over time would collect, leaves and would grow algae, effectively creating a net that would catch the fry because they're so small, they're only a couple inches long when they're emigrating. And act as a death trap, essentially.
Wow.
So because we're also herring wardens, aside from being natural resource officers, part of our duty to the state is to ensure safe passage for both the adults and the fry as they're leaving. So we needed to address that in order to continue moving fry downstream safely.
And that's interesting because when you are out there and this tree is down, the tree acts as other things for other species too, doesn't it?
Right. So from a conservation perspective, when you do herring run maintenance, the specific thing to focus on is creating passage for the fish, but doing minimal impact to the remainder of the environment. So pieces of the tree that were still alive, that were outside of the water column, get to stay because they provide habitat for other animals. Pieces of tree that are partially submerged but won't create any obstructions are important as basking areas for other aquatic turtles that we have here in Massachusetts. And that woody debris that sits on the bottom but isn't causing obstructions is important for larval insects, dragonflies, damselflies, mayflies, all different kinds of beetles, all live within that wood and spend a vast majority, some of them their entire lives in that system, also providing food for other species that live within those systems. So it's all important as part of the general ecosystem, even though we focus on the passage for that two species.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about herring specifically because there has been news, obviously herring trawling. There's been some legislation that's gotten through in the last days or so.
Yep.
Why are they important to the ecosystem?
Right, so they're what we call a keystone species. So their presence is usually an indicator of how environmental conditions are. So a decline in them is often an indicator of poor water quality or degrading environmental systems. They're also an extremely important food for hosts of animals that after a long winter are looking for, essentially shooting fish in a barrel. And the annual herring run, similar to the locusts every 17 years or so, but this is an annual event, provides food for so many other animals that we have here on Cape Cod. So, and historically they were very important economically, although there's a moratorium on them to be harvested currently recreationally, and there are new restrictions that are coming for the commercial harvest.
Right. So how do people know that these species are degrading in counts and numbers? Is there a system out there that counts these?
Sure. So a lot of our counts are done simply by volunteers. When the fish are running, they go out and they count for 10 minutes and an hour, submit that data, usually through their natural resource office or through their herring warden if they don't have natural resource offices. And then that information is given to the state so they can have a general idea of total population size of a run from year to year. And then they also sometimes have an additional count where the fish are getting to their spawning grounds that would indicate not only the estimate of total size of the run, but the estimate of the number of fish that actually make it to spawning grounds every year, because there is a big difference between those two numbers usually because of predation along the way as they're moving upstream, or if any of them are sick and die, any of those sorts of things will sort of skew the numbers. So they use those numbers over a series, hopefully of at least 20 years, to look at the trends across populations across the entire state.
Wow. How many runs are there in Barnstable?
So we have the Marston's Mills River Run, the Santuit River, which is a shared herring run between Mashpee and Barnstable. We have the West Barnstable Run, which goes from Boat Cove Creek in Barnstable Harbor all the way up into Mill Pond in West Barnstable. Then we have the Centerville River Run, which some of the fish choose to go up the Centerville River and then eventually into Lake Wequaquet. And there's also passage available for them to go into Red Lily Pond and Lake Elizabeth. We also have some what were historic herring runs that are no longer functioning that we're sort of continuing to look into for rehabilitation purposes, like Levels Pond and Little River is one of those.
And we want to make sure that people know that they can't take these herring. It's illegal to do that.
Right, yeah, there's been a moratorium in place, and at this point it was being renewed every 3 years, but in 2014, I think it was, the Atlantic Marine Fisheries Commission put a permanent moratorium on it. So the state and the Marine Fisheries Commission would have to be given a sustainable fisheries management plan for each individual run in order for any runs to be reopened to recreational harvest. It is also important to note, though, that if you are a card-carrying tribal member, you have native rights to those fish, and so they are still allowed to harvest.
Excellent. Well, this was a great education for me, and hopefully, you know, all those little guys get back home.
Yeah, and then hopefully in 3 years or so, we'll see them come back to repeat that process, the circle of life.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
Sometimes driving can be a challenge for some of our Barnstable senior residents. To a doctor's appointment, grocery shopping, or a myriad of errands that might be on the to-do list. The Silver Express, a service of the Barnstable Senior Center, has a shiny new ride that will get you to your destination safely and in style.
So in 2015, we had the opportunity through the town to lease an electric vehicle at a heavily discounted rate. There was a $7,500 rebate from the state DEP, as well as a $7,500 rebate from the dealer. And so we were able to engage into a 3-year lease for a Nissan Leaf electric vehicle for a total cost of about, it was less than $5,500, which we saw as a win-win, because what the electric vehicle allowed us to do was to reduce the overall costs of running the transportation program, given the fact that the handicapped accessible vans that we run are very heavy on fuel, and also with maintenance. The electric vehicle offered us an opportunity to provide our transportation services to older adults that really don't need to have the handicapped accessible transportation that the vans provided.
Well, after we saw what an enormous asset it was to the seniors here for all their transportation needs, we could see what a huge difference it made for them. And so when the time came that the Leaf lease was up, we were already looking forward to what the new car would be, and we were just so excited about it that they would continue it. And at one time we thought, well, would we keep the lease and you know, and buy it? And it was just decided that we really needed a vehicle that could do both, because the Leaf was limited to how far it could really go. So to take some of the stress out of that to the drivers, we thought that having both the hybrid was definitely the way to go.
The new Camry runs on electricity that's generated by gasoline. It goes 55 miles to the gallon, but I think we're doing a little bit better than that. And the cost of it is so much less than trying to drive a van. We do have 2 vans, but we use the second one only as a backup.
About a year or so ago, we had started planning, knowing that we were in the final year of the lease for the Nissan Leaf. And some of the things that we talked about, you know, that we felt that this was such a wonderful enhancement of the program that we definitely wanted to continue to utilize an electric vehicle. But the Leaf only ran on the electric charge, so one of the things that we wanted to do was introduce a hybrid vehicle, which would give us a little bit more ability to provide longer distances, because when the charge runs out, it will actually convert over to gas. So that was a benefit, and we also felt like we needed a larger vehicle that was more comfortable for the clients that we transport. And so we were able to find a lease, working with the purchasing department, for a 2018 Toyota Camry. Luckily, our friends group, who were so supportive of the initial 3-year lease and really understood how important this was to us in providing a vital service to seniors in our community that can no longer drive themselves to get to appointments in the grocery store, in the bank, and to the senior center, to our day program here. They fully supported continuing having an electric vehicle, and they agreed unanimously to fully fund the 3-year lease on the Toyota Camry, which came to just over $9,000.
It's very convenient for the drivers and the clients. They enjoy the fact that they're closer to the driver and to each other, and they communicate with each other more freely than they would if they were in the van and spread apart by bigger seats and everything. We have volunteers that drive the Camry, and and the volunteers are more apt to volunteer to drive the car than they would the van. I still need people to drive the van if possible, and but I still need some backup for the Camry also. We use the Camry for doctor's appointments mostly, and our adult supportive day program. We use it in the morning and the afternoon, and that was one of the things with the Leaf, Nissan Leaf, was that we couldn't run it all day long. We had to have it off around noontime so it could charge up again for the afternoon. In order to support the adult supportive day program more, we needed to have a second vehicle to be able to transport our clients to the program and home from the program. If you are interested, if you're a senior over 60 years old or disabled adult, you can call for a ride here at the Senior Center at 508-862-4752.
It's been really beneficial to us for the last month or so. We've had the Camry. It's now in action. It's out there on the roads throughout our 7 villages every day, and our clients, as well as our volunteer drivers and the board members of the Friends who voted to support it, are all in love with it, and it's just been a wonderful enhancement to our program.
We're just pleased and proud to be able to help, our seniors here. That's what we do, and we love doing it. So I'm very happy about it. I'm really thrilled, and I'm glad we're able to do it.
Here's a look at our community calendar for this weekend. The Cape may slow down in September, but Love Local Fest shows no signs of stopping. Same great vibe, tons of local vendors, food and beverage purveyors, kids activities, and music from local bands, Chantel Joseph and Bittersweet Band, Cape Cod, all the while enjoying the beautiful views of Hyannis Harbor. Sunday, September 30th from 11 to 6 p.m. is when Love Live Local's vision comes to life this year at Asselton Park on Hyannis Harbor. This festival unites the community of locals and visitors alike and showcases an amazing collection of Cape Cod's homegrown artists, artisans, farmers, food trucks, musicians, and other independent makers. Here is a look at next week's meeting schedule for boards, commissions, and committees. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook or Instagram. Email us or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.